Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. Episode 84, Yellow Card Podcast, brought to you by our good friends over at Couch Guys Sports. Please don't forget to check it out. Sponsored by our friends over at Shocked Energy. Go to shockedenergy.com. Use the promo code CGSN for 10% off your order. Get hydrated, get revitalized. Use those Shocked Energy boys. And also use our friend over at Exo Gun, a massage at a moment's notice. Boy, do I need one of those right now. Promo code CGS10 for 10% off your order today. They'll take care of everything you need. Deep tissue. Boy, my legs are fried after this weekend. So I could really use a nice, long massage right now at a moment's notice while we're recording this podcast. It's a little different this week, sorry. No girls and guys intro this week from Diego. I'm doing the intro this week. Diego, how are you?
I am excellent. Let's see. I am in pain. My body feels a lot older, but my soul still feels like I'm 16 years old.
This kid, the text I got Sunday morning. Woof.
Oh,
I don't know how
man.
this kid's alive.
I don't know how I'm alive. I'll tell you that.
But it's a good year. We're happy he's alive. We're happy he's here. So we're going to do something a little bit different this week with the English Premier League ending officially as of this past weekend. We are going to go over and recap the Premier League. And also, Diego, you know what I have written down?
Talk to me, brother.
I have our predictions from the beginning of the season.
Oh, my goodness.
As well written down. So we're going to go into that as well on top of it all.
I think I might have predicted one of the teams that got relegated. Actually, two, maybe.
So hold on. I need to scroll back in my notes real quick and find it. But I do have it. So, Diego, why don't you give us a little bit of update on, for the people that missed it, if you lived under a rock, who won the Premier League title? Did Liverpool steal it away, or was it a Man City showdown?
No, this was the perfect ending to what has been an up and down season, but a thriller of a season. Manchester City, in the most beautiful fashion, won the Premier League after trailing to Aston Villa 2-0. For a good majority of the game, it looked like as if Liverpool was going to walk away with the title and steal it from under Pep Guardiola's wing. However, Ilkay Gundogan and Rodri really took Manchester City on their shoulders, and my God, did they deliver a performance of a lifetime. This is something that a movie should be made of. Like, this was heroics all the way through, thick and thin. I mean, these two put their team on those shoulders, and they were playing the game of their lives. I don't think they could ever do it again if they really wanted to try and do it. But they delivered massively, to the point that they broke Pep Guardiola into a whirlwind of emotions. That man was broken in the sidelines, just thinking, this was the first time that he really felt extremely tested by somebody on the opposition. So no, this was exciting, absolutely exciting. Sucks to say, congratulations, Manchester City, but by the same token, like, this is the exact level of football that you expect to see out of a lot of leagues. And these two teams, Liverpool and Manchester City, are a generation of years ahead of everyone else right now in terms of football. And it's just a really wonderful thing to see.
All right, so I got it right here. I found it. It was in a different notebook, so I had to go back and look at it. So, do you want to start from the bottom of the table? Do you want to start from the top?
Let's start from the bottom.
Okay, so start from the bottom. So, the bottom three in the table for the Premier League was Norwich City. They finished with 22 points in the year. Watford finished with 23.
Yeah.
And Burnley, who finished with 35. So, looking at this, because this also has our co-host, our former co-host in it as well. Do we want to touch upon his or leave it?
No, let's touch upon him. He was part of
Okay,
the
so
season. Might as well.
relegation. I had Watford correct. I also had Brighton, Brentford there. That wasn't the case. Diego, you had Norwich correct. But you
Okay.
also had Brighton and Brentford. Andrew had Watford and Norwich, so 2 correct. But he had
Wow.
Newcastle as his other one.
Wow.
So move into what we call the Alive, 17 to 15, Leeds, Everton, and Southampton. So I had Crystal Palace, Southampton, and Burnley in that. So technically, Southampton was in that for me. You had Burnley, Newcastle, and Watford. He had Brighton, Burnley, and Brentford. So none of those were correct. Go in the middle of the pack. Aston Villa finished at 14th. Brentford finished 13th. Crystal Palace finished 12th. Newcastle finished 11th. And Wolves finished 10th. So I had Aston Villa at 10th. They finished at 14. So give that. I had Everton at 11. They finished at 16. So that's an L. Wolves I had at 12. They finished at 10. Newcastle I had at 13. They finished at 11. And Norwich I had at 14. They did not. You had Everton finishing at 10. They finished at 16. You had Leeds finishing at 11. They finished at 17. You had Crystal Palace right on the nose at 12. Give you a round of applause there. Wolves at 13. They finished in 10th. And Southampton at 14, but they finished at 15. So we'll give you a little bit of credit there. Andrew had Leeds at 10. They finished in 17th. At Everton at 11. They finished 16th. Crystal Palace at 12 as well. So shout out to him there. Wolves finished at 10. Southampton finished at 14. The contenders we had, so for 7 to 9, in the actual table, it was Brighton at 9, Leicester at 8, West Ham at 7. I had Tottenham at 9. They finished obviously in the top 4. West Ham at 8. They finished at 7, so that was close. And then Leeds at 7. They did not. You had Tottenham at 7. They finished at 4th. West Ham at 8. They finished at 7th. And you had Arsenal at 9th at the beginning of the season. They finished in 5th.
Okay.
Andrew had Tottenham at 7, obviously top 4. Villa, no. And then West Ham at 7. He had them at 9. The Europa League, I had Arsenal at 5. That was correct. Leicester at 6. They finished at 8. Obviously, Manchester United was in that spot. You had Leicester and Aston Villa.
Okay.
And Andrew had Leicester and Arsenal. Top 4. We all can cross off Man United. I had Liverpool finishing at 3. They finished at 2. I had Chelsea finishing at 1. They finished at 3. And Man City finishing 4th. They finished 1st. Andrew had Chelsea finishing 1st and finishing 3rd. Man City in 2nd. They finished 1st. And then Liverpool in 4th. They finished 2nd. You had Man United winning the table. I wonder why. Chelsea in 2nd. They finished 3rd. Man City, they finished 1st. And then Liverpool, they finished 2nd. Okay, so not great for the table for us. I won't lie to you. Looking back at it, hopefully we'll be much better next year. But why don't we start off? Let's dive in real quick. Manchester City.
Yep.
4 out of the last 5 years, they're now the English Premier League champions. Stop Liverpool from getting the chance to be the first English side to win the quadruple of all 4 trophies. Man City wins by a point. Order signs for City moving forward. What do you give a grade to their season?
Honestly, it started off really bad for them. They were completely off of the game when the season started. I mean, but frankly, right after they flipped the switch, it was just unstoppable. I'm gonna give their season a perfect 10, man. This was a phenomenal season, probably their best season in the past 5 years that Pep Guardiola has been dealing with this team.
I give it, so if we're going based off the 1 to 10 system, I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I think for me, they dominated the majority of the year, and down the stretch did what they had to do. There was a little bit of point where you and I both sat here and thought the Liverpool was going to steal the title away from them when they're 2nd and 5 and stop Man City from winning 4-5. That wasn't the case, however. But moving forward, I mean, they already signed Erling Haaland, so that offense is just going to get better. We're going to wait and see what happens in the offseason. But for Manchester City, for the English Premier League season, I give it a 9.5.
Okay.
All right. Liverpool.
That's another team that I personally have a lot of respect towards. I think what they did was insane. Everybody kind of, I think us in a way, kind of underestimated the talent behind Liverpool this year. People were thinking they were probably in third or fourth because they didn't do major signings uh, in the off season before the season started. Um, they were running basically with just a minor um, selection of things. They cleaned out house with some of the previous loan deals that they had made and whatnot. Um, but as the season went on, like they really narrowed down to what their identity really is this day and age. And honestly, from there on, they carried an absolutely phenomenal brand altogether. So that's another team that I personally give a 10 to.
Sorry, I just had money thrown at me. Give me a second.
Oh, there you go.
Find out where that went. But no, Liverpool, this was a season where I thought they'd finish in the top 4, obviously, but I didn't think they would be as close as they were at the beginning of the year. I'm giving this a 9.7. It would have been a 10 if they won, but I just think realistically, especially for a guy like Sadio Mane, who in 2020, 2021 had a very, very rough year. He battled this year, and he was a big focal part of this team. Still is. They're going to fight for the Champions League to get the triple, winning the Champions League, FA Cup, and Carabao Cup all in the same season. But Jurgen Klopp has his team, and you and I both said this and agreed to this off air. We were texting. Man City and Liverpool are 6 to 8 years ahead of everybody else right now. That's how good these two teams are.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's touch upon Chelsea. What do you think of Chelsea for this season with all the chaotic and the ownership? Abramovich losing the club due to ties with the Russian government. It's been a crazy season for them. What are your takeaways from this season for Chelsea?
Yeah. I mean, gotta be honest, this was a very unhealthy um season for them. I mean, for starters, Lukaku's issues in the locker room and within the organization, to a point where he was basically suspended from the team. Um, then the Abramovich stuff happening, N'Golo Kante's injuries. I'm even shocked, honestly, that Chelsea even ended third, considering that they could have dropped to a lot worse. I will say the beginning of their season was extremely dominant. They showed why they were the champions of Europe with the Champions League title. They showed why they were. Um, but probably like after the 10th game, they were very stagnant. And to be frankly honest, I think I give a lot of the credit to Tuchel for keeping this team well gelled together and on track for their main purpose, which is go back to Champions League football and then rebuild a little bit more onto what they currently have. It's an extremely young core too, so there's a lot of discipline that goes into that. I give them personally an 8.5 this season.
I think, realistically speaking, if you're looking at what they've dealt with um, the entire year, just to finish third, after their dominant performance in the Champions League and how they played down the stretch in the Premier League last year, I thought they were going to win the thing at the beginning of the season. I think injuries were a big part, but I'm glad to see the Tuchel got this team together. You and I had doubts about if Tuchel could get this team back on par. I'm giving them a 9 just based off the fact of what they did this year with all the distractions and everything like that. So I'm giving that a 9 overall.
Okay.
All right. This one, you and I did not see this coming. At least this season. Tottenham finishing the top 4. They are in Champions League next year.
Yep.
Takeaways from that.
Honestly, I give them a lot of respect. What they went through is stuff that you kind of it's almost like the Ted Lasso movie. It's almost like you having to go through so many struggles through one season to redefine your identity and continue to move forward. And that's exactly what happened to them. Right off the bat, they had just let go of Mourinho. They hired Nuno Espirito Santo. Nuno Espirito Santo started off in a decent note, but nothing like, like, oh, wow, Tottenham is absolutely back. He fell off after 10 games. I mean, this team was in full collapse mode all the way through. There was a lot of negativity in that locker room. Antonio Conte comes in and he basically says, this locker room is either a disaster waiting to happen or we have a miracle and things will work out. Conte basically agreed to come into this team, but was asked to be in full control of his decisions and not let the board even pitch anything in terms of decision making at all. And the fact that he has a very good sporting director uh, and the person that he worked with at Inter Milan, that helped a lot because if it had been just him and Daniel Levy, I would 100% guarantee that Tottenham would have possibly relegated this season because Levy's just a destruction path waiting to happen. Um, Obviously, that didn't happen. Antonio Conte took charge, signed some very good, did some very good signings, let go of Dele Alli, just said, you're not in my plans, but I want you to go back into your form and develop a little bit. So he let him go. He let him go towards Everton and let him work, some new ideas out or whatever. But frankly, I mean, what Antonio Conte did for Tottenham is shades of Mauricio Pochettino in year 2 when he found all that success. I mean, now you see Heung-min Son in full form. He's been phenomenal for this team. Harry Kane dominant up front. The defense is it's not stagnant. They're very well stacked together. They know how to work with each other. The goalie again found that energy that he was rekindled with, and brought back to. He's that leader in the locker room that you need him to be. Antonio Conte just the passion that this man has for the game, regardless of who he coaches, is so contagious that it just easily oozed up to the locker room in itself, and that's why Tottenham is back to Champions League football.
In the first 22 games this season, Tottenham is 11-3-8. Down the stretch, in their last 16, they went 11-2-3. So after that 3-game losing streak in January into the beginning of February, they literally doubled their wins and cut their losses in half. The way they've played down the stretch was amazing, and they played well when teams like Manchester United struggled. When Arsenal was hot, Arsenal started to struggle. Tottenham's performance was still at the top of the game. The future's bright if Antonio Conte is still running the show here. People thought Conte was going to leave at some point when they were sitting at 11-3-8. They were going to go on to their third manager of the year, but I'm going to give them a 10 based off of where they were and how they've battled back and gotten to this position. I think I give Tottenham a perfect 10 for this season.
Okay.
Fifth place is Arsenal. I mean, for me, I saw this coming only because they didn't have the distractions of the Europa League or any other European competition. Their main focus was Premier League this year. They wanted to finish in the top 6, and they did just that. They finished 5th, on the cusp of getting back into Champions League yet again. I think this team's a year away from getting back into Champions League. They just need a couple more pieces. I'd give Arsenal's an 8.5 for the season.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It was a quick turnaround with Arsenal. They had to do what they needed to do. We spoke about it earlier in the season. All three of us did, and it was that the importance of bringing Martin Odegaard back to the team, and it delivered in full. It was so important for them to bring that kid back, allow him to reestablish himself within the club. They let go of Aubameyang because of the attitude and the problems that they were having in the locker room. He was a distraction, and clearly it worked out. So, no, I agree. I agree with you great in there.
All right. Let's try not to make this a 20-minute rant here, okay?
Yep.
When I say this, but Manchester United.
Man, I think the expectations were so high just based on what we saw on paper. But I mean, Mourinho said it best, man, when he left. There were the issues for United are so deep that until you have somebody that's willing to rattle the cages and fight through the fire, that team will never be fixed. That's exactly what happened. Ole was delivered a extremely talented team on paper. I think we can all agree to that. But there was no chemistry. It never gelled. It never gelled at all. I mean, Bruno Fernandez's form, it went from a perfect 10 to a perfect 0 within one season. How does that happen? How do you explain that? For me personally, for United, if it wasn't for Rangnick, who United fans should be more thankful to, that's another team that could have found themselves towards the bottom of the table, could have ended, 14th, 15th place. I'm gonna give them a 6 out of 10, just because of how rocky everything was. There's only really one person, maybe two people that really saved this team from catastrophe, and that was Ralph Rangnick and David De Gea with a very good season. He was solid, but between the pipes for them. So,
You know what I'm starting to notice a little bit here? These guys that play so well in the Bundesliga, they come over to the Premier League. These young guys, and they're just the seasons that they're having are just not great. Prime example, Jadon Sancho. We were very hyped for him coming to United.
yeah,
3 goals and 3 assists this year. This is also the same Jadon Sancho last year. If you're looking from his numbers, I mean, he didn't play much in the Euros, so that kind of set him up for failure, in my opinion.
yeah.
But like in the Bundesliga last year, he was fantastic. So seeing him struggle like that, seeing guys like Timo Werner and Kai Havertz also struggle. Kai Havertz, I think, had 8 goals this year, and Timo Werner had 4. Timo Werner was scoring 20 plus in Bundesliga, like it was no one's issue. Comes over here and starting to struggle. I think United, realistically, and it just stinks to say this, but the second that they outbid to get Ronaldo, just so Man City didn't, was the second that their season took a tailspin. The locker room was lost with Ole at some point. There were risks about it for months. It was time that they moved on. They moved on. They're heading in the right direction, I think. I'm giving this season a 5 out of 10. I think next year they're back on top. They're solidifying themselves in the top 4. And realistically, I think Eric Ten Hag is going to get the guys that he wants. So that's how I feel about that.
I agree with that.
Briefly, the 7 to 9 spot, West Ham, Leicester, Brighton. Obviously, you and I getting in Brighton major props here. Neither of us thought that Brighton would finish in the top 10.
Yep. No, I agree with that.
Some of us had Brighton being relegated.
Yeah.
So we'll give Brighton its due. Finishing 12, 15, and 11. West Ham falling short of Europa League again this year. Obviously with Tottenham taking a step forward, and Arsenal also playing the way they did. Any other like takeaways from that?
No, I mean, frankly, when you think of 7, 8, 9, I mean, those are teams that build financially guided. It wasn't more of like they were built for insane levels of talents to be stacking their rosters, like the first four teams in the Premier League. So, if anything, it's more of like a round of applause for those people because they really delivered a phenomenal season. I mean, West Ham is back at for potential competition within their Europa League. Um, Leicester, they didn't do much signings at all, and they still managed to finish top 10. That's just a testament as to how good of a coach Brendan Rodgers is. And then Brighton, I mean, they were in the top 5 for a good amount of time in the opening of the Premier League. So just kudos to them, really.
Yeah, no, big kudos to Brighton. Leicester, this was a weird year for Leicester
Yep.
to me. I think we're starting to see a little bit more of the tides turning. Maybe there's a big shakeup happening in Leicester City. We'll find out in due time. But let's slide in the rest of the table. Want to give a big shout out to Newcastle.
Yep.
The future's bright in Newcastle. Trust me when I tell you, they're going to compete for top 10 next year, maybe even top 8, depending on what moves they acquire this season, this offseason as well. But to me, I want to say goodbye to Burnley. I want to say goodbye to Watford. I want to say goodbye to Norwich City. Realistically speaking, Diego, when I say this, I mean this in the nicest way. I don't think it's going to be long before all 3 of those teams are back in the Premier League.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, Burnley, I'm almost willing to say we'll see them back in 2 years. What happened at Burnley was a catastrophe, letting go of what's his name? Sam Dyche, something like that.
Yeah.
Letting go of their head coach. That was the big disaster. You can't just let go of a guy that has driven this team into ultimate peaks. I mean, this is a team that every time that a top 6 or top 10 team was facing them, they were a pest in their way because they were just impossible to play against. And then you look at Burnley, you look at Watford. Watford, unfortunately for them, they just really need a top tier coach. That's what they need. They have the talent. They're just not well set up to be playing at a level of competition like the Premier League was this year. It was just unfair for them. And same with Norwich. Norwich, I mean, Norwich now has Aston Villa's previous coach. He just was given a roster that was not deep enough. It's what it comes down to.
The thing that's wild to me, and this is why sports are great. If you look at the goal differential between Burnley and Leeds United, you would have thought that Leeds United would have got relegated months ago.
Yeah.
Burnley might have the lowest goal differential for any team that's gotten relegated within the last 10 years.
Yeah, because I mean, in average, they didn't allow teams to score on them more than 2 goals.
Yep.
Which technically, by the way, for many people who are so critiquing of the Ralph Rangnick way of coaching, that's how Leipzig and that's how Hoffenheim and all these other teams that he's coached have been a pest in leagues that he's coached because they're impossible to play with. It's a formula that has given him a lot of success.
They gave up the 10th fewest goals in the Premier League this year.
There you have it.
Teams that are still in the Premier League that gave up more goals than them this year. Let's see. Manchester United, Leicester
easily.
City, Newcastle, Brentford.
Tottenham should be there.
No, actually, Tottenham only gave up 40 goals this year.
Wow, that's impressive.
Brentford, Aston Villa, Southampton, Everton, Leeds, to say the least. it stinks, but I think realistically, if I'm the gambling man like I am, I wouldn't be surprised if Burnley wins the EFL next year.
I hope so. I hope so.
Speaking of the
They're the strongest team right now in the EFL for next season.
Speaking of the EFL, big congratulations. Fulham and AFC Bournemouth are back. They are back. They will be in the Premier League come the 2022-2023 season. We have one final game in the EFL. The winner moves on. It's Huddersfield Town and Nottingham Forest. When you and I called when we did our EFL predictions, Nottingham Forest still, correct?
Yeah, I'm still
right.
siding with them.
So we both agreed Nottingham Forest is going to be the team. So we're going to congratulate them. Now they play Saturday, May 29th. Oh, no, Sunday, May 29th.
Sunday, May 29th.
Sunday, May 29th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Congratulations to Nottingham Forest from the Yellow Card Podcast.
Knock on wood.
All right. Let's dive in. Champions League final. This is why we're here.
Yeah.
Record on the season for the Champions League final. We have kept it from the get-go. It's been a hell of a ride. It's coming to an end. Diego, you were finishing above 500 this year in the Champions League.
Yeah.
66 and 58. I am 74 and 50. All right. Liverpool, Real Madrid. It's in France. What are we thinking here?
I think Liverpool shows a very dominant first half. But if not careful with doing the right substitutions, this could be Real Madrid's title to steal.
I agree. Listen, I'm going to give you 2 words that describes this game for me.
Karim Benzema.
What?
Karim Benzema.
No, 2 words that describes this game for me. Revenge game.
Yeah.
Real Madrid knocked Liverpool out of the Champions League last year. And don't forget, a couple years back, before Liverpool won the Champions League title, Real Madrid knocked them out in the final. This is big-time revenge. Mo Salah and company want this. Jurgen Klopp wants this. Jurgen Klopp versus Carlo Ancelotti. We saw how good they were last year against each other when Ancelotti was at Everton. Obviously, different team, different firepower. But I'm going with Liverpool 2-1.
Yeah, not a bad choice at all there. I'm siding with Real Madrid here. I think these last minute heroics are gonna come to play again. They have played all along the season, and you just can't deny that at all. But honestly, for me personally, I'm a Madrid fan. I've always been it. But honestly, I wouldn't be mad with whoever wins this game. I know it sounds like such a cheap scapegoat, but it's really not. Both of these teams have been stellar all season long. These 2 teams both deserve it. I wish the final hadn't come down to these 2, honestly.
I mean, listen, I think we're going to have – because Diego and I are going to watch this live and in person with each other.
Yeah.
And Diego and I – this is going to be a first because fun fact for all of our listeners here, Diego and I are very good friends, close personal. Diego and I have never watched a soccer game in person.
I know this is gonna be an experience for Jones and an experience for me as well.
Yeah, because we've done streams before, so we kind of get the gist of it. But you can only do so much on a stream when you're in person, especially in the environment that we're going to. It's gonna be fun.
Here's the other thing: I'm not even gonna wear a soccer shirt for this game because where we're going, it could very well end very badly. For
your sake, if Real Madrid scores, it's one of those fist bumps under the table.
Oh, I'm not even gonna say shit. I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't see it.
Almost spit my water.
But here's the thing: for the 2 of us, if either team loses, the place where we're going is so crowded with pigeons that we can just go outside and punch bird shit. It'll be fine.
Oh, it's gonna be great. No, it's gonna be a fun experience. I'm hoping that Diego and I, our schedules kind of lined up more. We can do stuff like this and be able to.
Now I have an excellent idea. I could just be sneaky. I could wear the Colombian shirt and act like I'm there for Liverpool, but in reality, I'm there for Madrid.
You want? Hey, do what you want to do, man. It's fine. But Diego and I are gonna try and do this more often. I mean, don't get me wrong. Actually, you know what? We have watched the game live and in person together because we went to the Revs playoff game,
Oh, we did. Yeah.
but we haven't watched in a European game like that.
And we had distractions at that refs game, so that doesn't really.
Yeah, we don't
count.
talk, but it was cold that night, man.
Yeah, it was
Very
so.
cold.
The distractions were helpful.
Yeah. But we'll trust me, Diego and I talking year 3. It's a big year, big leaps forward. Trust me.
Be on the lookout for some announcements because year 3. Think of us as like either a combination of Manchester City and Liverpool year 3, or think of us as a really electric Real Madrid starting 11 for year 3.
Trust me, we got big things coming, and you're not gonna want to miss them. But
No, be on the lookout for announcements on the Twitter page all throughout. We're coming in hot.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, touch upon just a quick final thing for me. Will be shout out to Frankfurt.
Yep.
For winning the Europa League. They're officially qualified for the Champions League next year. So big shout out to them from the Yellow Card podcast. Any final thoughts before we conclude episode 84?
How did we do with the MLS best last week?
So I won with the Revs. Who did you have? I forget.
I think I had the Red Bulls.
Huh?
I think I had the Red Bulls.
Did have the Red Bulls. How'd the Red Bulls do? That's the thing. I didn't keep track of that this week. My apologies.
I don't think any of us kept any track of that, to be honest with you.
The Red Bulls lost 2-0 to Inter Miami.
Of course they did. Perfect.
So we're gonna. That's another thing. It was one of those things we threw in to the podcast. We're gonna get more focus into that at another date. Let's conclude episode 84 with a big shout out to our listeners. 2 years into doing this with you guys has been great. We got World Cup content coming soon. Year 3 in the EPL. Hopefully, maybe a new champion.
Yeah.
And we got bunches of content coming your way too in year 3. You're not going to want to miss it. But make sure you're following the podcast on Twitter at Podcast Card. Let's get these bad boys 2K by January.
Yes, sir.
My personal account, cjones21212, Diego at Diego_the DJ. Signing off episode 84. We will see you guys next week for episode 85 with either a real happy Jones or depressed Jones. Signing off.
Peace.